We are in a Bible verse that's very. Mm, mm. Women do not like this Bible verse. They hate this one. They hate this Bible verse a lot. 1 Timothy 2:12 to 13. To teach is what I'm calling this. If I am nope, hold up. I'm reading the wrong one. It is 2:12 to 13. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet, for Adam was formed first, then Eve. People will hear this Bible verse, men will hear this Bible verse, and they try to use this Bible verse to have an authority figure over a woman. Like, don't do this in my house. You got to do this. This is not what this passage is really about. It's connected to a man having control and making the first and the last decision. But a woman plays a huge role on helping making decisions for a house and in a relationship. But the man gets that final say so. But this is not really about that. This is really about the church. And the reason why I'm using this one, because we have to understand the context of what is being said and explained here. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exalt, in the King James Version, authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. Now, this is one of those more debatable passage. It is really important to understand the context. Paul is writing here and who he's writing to and what he is talking about. Paul is addressing order in the church and gathering and Ephesians, or whatever that place, that church over there. A place where certain cultures and people were practicing and doing certain things. There were plays like false teaching and the P word, like the harlot, and other practices. The focus is on maintaining a healthy order of teaching and authority that is specific to church context. It's important to church context. It's in a hierarchy. He's getting ready to break it and explain it. That's because that they had female pastors. That's because they had females in charge. You have to understand the context. You have to go do your research. A healthy order of teaching and authority in that specific church context. Important. Paul ground his response in the creation of Adam. Adam was created first. He's pointing it out in scripture right here. Adam was he was created first. The man that should be the pastor, he should be the head of this church. Now, it doesn't mean women are infernal or can't teach at all. It means that there is a specific rule for how teaching and authority is explained, and it showed an example for generation, for worship, for context. The principle, it's about order and protection of a sound teaching and doctrine of the gospel, not about denying the value or the gift of a woman in the church. She's very important for the church. That's why she's called the helper. We'll see in later verses where it talks about the bishop and the deacon and the roles that the woman plays underneath these people. And now we got deaconess. We're going to get there. He is interpreting the light of the whole counsel of Scripture, that the man is the head of the church. I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. And because of this reason, a man is above the church. He's above the woman. We just read that in other pieces of Scripture. Ephesians, 1 Corinthians, Genesis. A man is called to give himself. If the woman is the head of the church, how's she giving herself? If that a man in Scripture shows if a man don't even want to go to church today, that day. He don't even want to read scripture that day. And he says, we ain't doing that. She has to follow that. But now put that in reverse. If the woman says, I don't want to read scripture, or I don't want to go to church today, she's in sin to teach. And people will try to twist this scripture right here and change the word teach. But the lovely thing about the internet, Google exists, ChatGPT exists, right? The Greek and the Hebrew, the Jewish Bible exists. We can go to these scriptures, right? And now you're gonna say, well, First Timothy won't be in their Bible because that's New Testament. But there's Jewish Christians that have the New Testament in their scriptures. And the word that's translated for teach is also translated to explain doctrine. So if we change this, I do not permit a woman to explain doctrine or assume authority over a man, she must be quiet. If we change it to instruct, I do not permit a woman to instruct or assume authority. This is what the word teach in Greek and in Hebrew is. So we know that this isn't the issue. Now, we're in the role of the bishop. There's churches with female bishops. They don't qualify for this position because it does not exist in Scripture. We will find nowhere in Scripture talks about a female bishop because it is a hierarchy. And in 1 Timothy 3:1-2, here is a trustworthy saying. Whoever aspires to be an overseer is a bishop, desires a noble task. Now the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife. It doesn't say that the overseer should be faithful to the husband. It says to the wife. He's talking to men. Temperament, self-control, responsible, hospitable. Why can't I say this word? Hospitable. Still trying to say the word. I can't. Hospitable. Able to teach. I don't know why that word's giving me a tongue twister right now. Hospitable. Able to teach. That is the doctrine to a bishop. Now, what is happening here? What is really being discussed here? What is really happening? What is he writing? 1 Timothy 3:1-2. The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of an overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be able to reproach the husband of one wife. And it goes on from there. And I'm reading from my other notes. I got some notes here. I got my Bible. I got some other notes. If you see that, I'm multitasking. Pay attention to this piece here. The husband of one wife. Paul is laying out the qualifications for a church leader, a bishop. He's laying out the leadership of an overseer. The key phrase, husband of one wife, is often understood as a reflection of a male role, which aligns with God's pattern for spiritual leadership. The hierarchy that I've been explaining and talking about of the male role, the husband, which aligns with God's pattern and leadership in the home and in the church. This is consistent to the broad biblical pattern that we read from Genesis to Revelations of a male headship in the family and of the church, of a relationship, a leadership role. But it's crucial to note that this is not about function and order, not value both men or women. They are equally made in God's image. This passage that I read to you is pointing out a specific leadership role in God's church design and his creation of his family, spiritually authority. Understand that a woman cannot be a bishop because Scripture is explaining it to us. And not only that, when you go to Deuteronomy and when you go to Numbers and you start reading about bishops and deacons in that time, and preachers and pastors, and they were always men. But it breaks down how they need to be married, what they're allowed to do. They can't sin. A bishop cannot sin, right? I just read that to you. I just read that to you. He must be trustworthy. He must be able to be approached. He must be humbled. He must have hospitality. Hey. He must be able to teach. He must be respectful. He must be faithful. Right? He can't fall into sin, because when we go back and we read about him, it's going to tell us this. It's going to break down the role of a bishop. We got bishops now, they cheating, they fornicating, they stealing from the pot, they doing A, B, and C. We're going to move on to Titus.